Hi, this tutorial is the first step in creating your um, Graphic Design 2 InDesign magazine project. So there are a couple different steps that you're going to need to figure out before you even begin your magazine, starting with what's your magazine going to be about. And you've got some options. You can choose an athlete, or you can choose an artist, or any celebrity, famous person, anything you can find lots of pictures and images of. So I'm going to show you two examples. Number one is perhaps I want a magazine based on the Golden State Warriors, specifically Stephen Curry. So I found some pictures, I found a logo, a couple photos of him in different poses, and some other members of the team. So it takes a little bit of planning to get what you need for your magazine before you even begin. And I want to talk a little bit about how to gather images correctly and get them in the right format. Many of the photos that you collect, you might want to be making changes to in Photoshop before you even begin the layout of your magazine. So this part of the tutorial is based on just the gathering of imagery and how to save it correctly so that you can place everything into InDesign when you're ready to start your magazine. So my first example was a sports magazine. The second one I'm going to do is an artist's magazine. I'm going to be basing it off of the artist named Frida Kahlo. Many people remember her as the monobrow artist. I find her a very intriguing, interesting, and amazing artist myself. So I'm going to base my magazine design off of Frida Kahlo. So when you do your search, just go ahead and start with a basic search, and then you want to click on images. And the most important step is make sure you're getting large sized images. So on a basic Google search, if you click large, you're going to see the photos come up, and they're going to just be a little bit more high quality. So I'm going to take this first image. I really like the black and white. And it's a Wikipedia site. So we're basically borrowing images to use for a class project. We're not going to be selling this or using it for anything more specific than just practicing InDesign. So I clicked to the biggest size I could find, and I want to make a folder for myself on the desktop. So I'm just going to go ahead and go File, New Folder, and I'm going to call it Frida Photos. And now I'm going to just start collecting those images. And there are many ways you can collect them. Sometimes you have to do a screenshot, place it into Photoshop, then put it in your folder. I'll show you that step next. I'm going to go back to this small image and just kind of demonstrate how you can pull those just right into your folder if you'd like to get a couple images started. So remember, you're going to be doing a cover and then two interior spreads. So you're going to want to get enough to cover that much information. So here's another color photo I thought might be great for the cover of the magazine. This happens to be off of somebody's blog, so it's nice and big. I'm going to pull that one in to my folder as well. Okay, and other than just pictures of her face, which are actually quite interesting here, I might want to gather some images of her artwork as well, since you want not only just the person, but you probably want some of the artwork. So I'm going to do Frida Kahlo art. And again, Frida Kahlo has some very interesting types of paintings, so some of the imagery is really unique and interesting. But I'm just going to start looking for some of the paintings I think are going to make a great magazine cover or article inside, and pull those right into my folder just to kind of have them ready to go. We're going to be doing a lot of placing into InDesign, so I find it best to just kind of have things ready to go. So I do want to show I've always loved this painting. It's kind of about her back injury, so it's got a lot of symbolism here. But sometimes you're not able to just grab the picture and drag it in. Most of these have been really easy to pull into the folder. But if you ever do need to do a screen capture, which is basically taking a picture of the picture that you want. I'm going to show how to do that really quick so you can see how that works. If I need to take a picture of a picture, I just hold down Command, Control, Shift, and 4. It's a lot of buttons, so you need 2 hands for it, or at least I do. And your cursor turns into this little crosshair telling you you're going to select an area that you're going to be copying. So I drag over the part I want to collect, and it makes a little sound, sort of like taking a photo. And then I'm going to go into Photoshop, and I'm just going to open a new document, and I'm going to make sure it's in inches just because it's easier for me to know what size I want. And I'm going to go 11 by 8.5. And honestly, I'm just kind of guessing with this, but I am keeping it in 72 resolution because most likely your pictures online are going to stick with that smaller size resolution. Then I'm going to hit OK, and then just Command V to paste the image in. So it's a nice large picture that will be workable, but again, if you can't get pictures to just drag into your folder, this is an option to save them and prep them for your project. So then I would just save it. I'm just going to name it Frida Deer, and then I'm going to save it to the desktop. And most of your photos you're going to need to make changes and adjustments to anyway. So now that I've got all my Frida photos, I've got a whole folder ready to go. So if I look inside that, I've got all of these different images that I can work with in my magazine. So notice something like this, I'd probably want to crop it. Other pictures, maybe I want to do one where I take the background out of it and just have a silhouette of her. All of those adjustments can be made in Photoshop before you even begin your magazine. So for instance, let me look at this one with the words. I'm going to just pull that into Photoshop, and I'm going to crop it. So I'm going to use my crop tool and just kind of make a selection based on what I think I might use in my magazine, which isn't the text. I could add my own text if I wanted to. But I'm just going to crop that picture and pull this down a little bit more if I can here. And then I click crop again, and now my photo's cropped. I might also want to do something interesting with color. So I could go image, adjustments, and perhaps I'll go hue saturation and colorize it. Maybe I want to go with sort of a blue tone for part of my magazine to make it a little more interesting, and then hit OK. So now I'm just going to save that and put it back in my folder. That way I've done some of my photo editing before I even put my photos into InDesign. You can do some editing in InDesign, but not as much as you can in Photoshop, so I recommend doing some editing beforehand. Same thing with this portrait. I possibly want to cut out the background, so I'm going to put it into Photoshop. And if I want to cut out I actually like the texture of this blue wall, so I'm kind of second guessing my idea to cut it out, but perhaps I want to take the pen tool and just kind of trace around it. This is just like the Illustrator pen tool that we use. There's so many ways to delete the background in Photoshop. If you have a different method, or if you find working with just the eraser to be a little bit more user-friendly. I think the eraser isn't as easy to control personally. I like to use this pen tool. So you decide what you think will work best for whatever picture you're doing, but I do want some editing to be taking place in Photoshop before we just use pictures as is that we've collected. So I'm going to go all the way over. There's just a couple ending steps here, and I'll probably touch this up a little bit. She's got these funny earrings on that I might need to make some additional adjustments to, but so far I've got kind of a nice little tracing line. Go all the way around these flowers and stop when I get to where I started. And then I just want to make selection, and I could just go select inverse and hit delete. Notice I need to unlock my layer. Oops, I did not do exactly what I was hoping to here, but I'm going to take a moment to let it progress. And I basically filled it with my selection, which isn't what I wanted to do. So I'm going to unlock that layer and just hit delete. That's what I meant to do, although the hand thing was kind of cool. So happy accidents happen all the time. So now I can deselect. I've basically cropped her out of her background. I can still see a little blue remaining along here, so there are a couple things I could do to fix that. I could zoom in nice and close, try to use my magic wand and delete things that way. Okay, and then I want to save it, and that's how it's going to work.